folks. Welcome into a game day edition of Bullet Point 716. I'm one of your hosts today, Kevin Masseri, here with Mike Bunt to talk UB Akron. Fresh for today, getting into some pregame, maybe talking about a little bit of Bunt's Bobcats in Ohio to start this baby off. I'm here with my fresh cup of Joe before Tim Hortons closed in my Bills mug. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing great, Kev. Just ready for some football.
That's right. Good day for football. And UB's really they're hanging on a thread, Mike. They're there. We've talked about it ad nauseum, kind of what they need to do here to get through the MAC East, already being a game down from that Kent loss. And it's a big day to beat Akron here. But let's talk about Ohio a little bit quick, Mike. Tell me about your input and your thoughts on that Ohio game leading up to that winning field goal. Talk to me about what went wrong on the longest touchdown run ever by a quarterback. You know what's really funny? We talked about that on the pregame. UB cannot stop the quarterback run. They weren't able to stop Western Michigan's non-running quarterback. I certainly knew that they were going to struggle against Ohio's running quarterback. They didn't even need to throw the ball.
Yeah, I think they had 3 pass attempts in the first half, and where Ohio went wrong is they started trying to throw the ball in the second half. But that was an interesting game. First off, it was great to be there. I thought it was going to rain the whole day, and it ended up just kind of being windy, not really any rain to bother me while at the game. Got there early, saw Rob and some of the guys. But beginning of the game, all Ohio, it was obvious the Bulls weren't ready to face a mobile quarterback, which is kind of sad because they faced one week prior against Kent State. The 99-yard touchdown run, obviously unbelievable. It was really kind of a simple play. It was just a quarterback keeper. He went to the left. He thought he was probably going to get 4 or 5 yards and try to set up a manageable second down. And he found the edge. And that's one of the things. He's such a quick quarterback. You don't expect a QB to run that fast. And when he got to the outside, he got a block by a receiver and literally went all the way. I've never seen a more simple, long play in my life. He really only had to beat one guy to the edge, and he was gone. Second quarter, UB starts getting back into it. Got 10 straight points to make it 21-10. And you really started to see the change that towards the midway through the third quarter, UB's defense started shutting down Ohio. They forced a turnover. They stopped Armani Rogers from really making a play. And there was a critical pass interference that took off an Ohio touchdown. Looked like there was a lineman blocking down the field on a pass play that led to a Lerman touchdown that was taken off. But you got to give credit to UB. They were down 16 after a really ugly safety, and they kept fighting. UB's passing attack, it's been mediocre at best this season. In the fourth quarter, they really started connecting, and they even left some points on the board on a Van Treese overthrow. But you have to give him credit. He had a couple nice touchdown tosses. And then the funniest part of the game is, as some of you know, I'm a UB season ticket holder. I was sitting next to my guys next to me, and I asked them with about 5.5 minutes to go, right when UB got the ball at around their 5-yard line. I'm like, would you guys take an Alex McNulty 32-yard field goal straight on for the win as time expired? And they said yes in a second. I'm like seriously, guys? I'm like, you're not nervous about that at all? And they're like, well, you didn't say whether or not we thought he would make it. You just said, would we take the opportunity to win? And sure enough, 31-yard field goal, time expires, and he misses it. Now, looking at the replay, I think he actually made the first one, and I think the refs got it wrong. The TV angle, it looks clear that it went in. But either way, Ohio jumps off sides, drills the second one, and then Ohio jumps off sides again. Like, what's going on with the Bobcats there? But overall, an escape job. You couldn't lose to Ohio and have any hopes of pretty much anything down the season. If they lost to the Bobcats, we're calling for Matt Myers. We are calling for more depth guys going in. The rest of the season, we'd basically be hanging it up, 0-3 MAC play. But none of that matters now because you got the win. You're 1-2 in MAC play, 3-4 overall, and you're playing Akron and Bowling Green the next 2 weeks. Chance to get back over 500 with a couple wins now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a funny question you proposed your other season ticket holders there, that he's the 144th ranked kicker in college football with a 53% field goal percentage. I mean, absolutely, you can't ever, think that that's the play for this team. I mean, basically, Kent could have gone a bunch of different ways, but he missed 2 field goals that just changed the game, Mike. Like, I mean, you just need better special teams play. Talk to me about the safety, though. That's something I didn't get to see. I want to know a little bit more about what happened on that play and what in the world is going on.
I haven't checked the replay, so this is just from my memory. It was a punt from the UB 25-yard line was the snap. It looked like the punter was rolling right, which I don't know if they were just trying to do one of those rugby kicks or if there was just confusion on where the ball was. I believe it deflected off of one of the guys, one of the blockers in front of him, and it just kept rolling. And by the time anybody got to the ball, it was in the end zone. And I really thought that was it for UB at that point because you're talking 2 touchdowns, 2-point conversions, and you have to hold Ohio off the scoreboard. I really thought it was over at that point, but a lot of resiliency for UB. And I do want to bring up one final thing from that Ohio game.
Please, Mike.
The ball with about 30, 25 seconds, however much time, and I think a timeout, UB chose to just have Van Treese take a couple steps to the left and go to the ground on a 3rd and 1 with about 25 seconds left, just setting up the field goal.
Bad call.
Bad call. I thought, come on, your offense is all over the place. Yeah, you don't want to risk a turnover, but you don't trust your kick. Well, obviously he does trust the kicker. I don't trust McNulty, even though I'm happy that he had his moment last week. Pound it up and make it a little bit shorter. 32 yards for UB is not a chip shot. And the other thing I found even worse was that the Ohio coach doesn't call a timeout with 20 seconds left. Instead, he holds on to his final timeout to try to ice the kicker. Are you kidding me? Like, Tim Albin, I know the chances of Ohio scoring after a made kick is slim to none. But you have a chance to force the kick with 22 plays and get the ball back. Even you could throw a desperation play, maybe get a spike off, and still try to kick a 55-yard field goal. It was never going to happen. But, God, we're pretty critical of Coach Mo. Ohio's coach is in over his head. That guy does not know what he's doing. And he leads them to losing games by his decisions. And I'm fearful that Coach Mo is kind of a little bit the same way early on in his tenure, but we'll give him some time because they have managed to squeak out some victories.
Yeah, Mike. I mean, I just have an issue. That's the exact right thing. I don't think how you could rely on a kicker kicking 50%. It's not a gimme. You don't have Tyler Bass back there. You don't have, a professional kicker that can hit from anywhere on the field. As a dynamic weapon, 90+% field goal kicker, needs to make the kick, whatever. You don't have that going on for you. You have a guy that literally can't get out of his own way. And then put that aside. Let's say you did have whoever, Justin Tucker, Tyler Bass. Let's say you did. You're getting kicks blocked, multiple ones this season on your special teams. You don't know that play, even if, your kicker's automatic, you don't know that they're not going to bust through. They've done it on every formation they've tried so far, every rollout, every straight back, 2 different punters, kicks of being blocked here, Mike. It's not a gimme.
And this is a team that lost to Ohio 2 years ago at UB Stadium because they missed an extra point in overtime.
Yep. It is not a gimme. Field goals aren't a gimme. Maybe in an NFL mindset, a gimme 32, it's an extra point. Yeah, you're making that 90% of the time. It's a gimme. It's a gimme. But not in this level, not in mid-major football. It is not a gimme. It is 50%. And we saw why. 1 for 2. He missed that. Well, you don't know. I need to see the angle. I don't even know if they can review that. Let's say there wasn't an offsides on that. I don't understand. I don't
think they could. I don't know. That would be the game.
And maybe it was a bad call, but either way, technically by the books, he went 1 for 2. Literally, like we're saying today on the show at Bull Point 716, it's 50-50. You need more yards. Absolutely the wrong call. The risk, I think the risk of him fumbling is just significantly lower for a team that runs a ball on 3rd and 8. It's significantly lower than it is a 50-50 kick. I'm sorry. you needed more yards. Kneeling on it ever is not the right call. But Mike, we're going to move on. They took the victory. They took it from the jaws of defeat. They did everything they could to make it happen, and to bury Bunt's Bobcats into oblivion. Coaching issues over there. They're done. They're out of it. They're thinking about their whatever Rourke, if Rourke ever plays again, we don't know. But Ohio's out of here. They're done. Great to see. We're moving on. Kent's still the favor here. They did lose to WMU. Part 1 happened, beating Ohio. Kent lost to WMU. Do we see part 2 happen? And that's today against Akron in a game that they must have even on the road. And then, we're rooting for a little magic. What's going to happen with Kent? What's going to happen with Kent today as they play Bunt Bobcats today, 1 p.m. from Ohio. So maybe we're rooting for Ohio one last time here because UB really needs it. That would get them where they needed to be. But it starts right now against Akron today against a third string quarterback that's hot. I mean, he's hot as a pistol right now, Mike. 2 back-to-back 3 touchdown games. He's slinging. He's got some receivers. We saw what happened against Kent and their receivers. Mike, let me hear your opinions as we start to break down Akron.
They're a horrible team, but they're actually kind of more interesting than what I thought going in. Some of their numbers are a little distorted because they played Auburn or Ohio State, so you can't really look at their stats and take too much out of it because they have been much more competitive in MAC play since starting conference play. They lost to Ohio by 17, so that's pretty bad. Beat Bowling Green, and then they had a loss last week. But the thing that's interesting about Akron is they actually pass the ball better than what I would have expected. They throw for around 230 yards per game. I believe they have 15 touchdown passes to only 4 interceptions. You mentioned their third-string quarterback, Zach Gibson, really lighting it up in recent weeks. And it's interesting how they got there. DJ Irons, a sophomore, started the year, and he'd been doing okay, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But then he got hurt, and I'm going to mess this up. Cato Nelson, I believe, then filled in to take over. And a lot of us remember Cato Nelson because he'd been the starter for multiple years, and then he got hurt. So now Zach Gibson is in the game. So they've had 3 quarterbacks play decent minutes. And actually, the 2 guys, Zach Gibson and Cato Nelson, and both played quarterback in previous years. So it's not like Gibson is inexperienced. It's weird that he has the third-year freshman label, but that's half the guys in the game right now due to COVID last year. The one thing that is very, very interesting about this team is their freshman receiver, Kanata Mumfield. This guy is tearing it up. I'm talking playing at an all-MAC level caliber right now. 38 receptions, over 450 yards, and 6 touchdowns. This guy was not recruited by big-name schools, mostly FCS programs. I believe he's out of Georgia.
He's gone, Mike. How long is he going to be in Akron?
He's already looking at the transfer portal and trying to figure out where he's going to land. But they do have a good number 2 guy as well on their team in Michael Matheson. So this is a team that has a couple good weapons, which could be a little bit scary for UB, knowing how they're pretty weak in the secondary, but they're still not scoring points, around 21 points a game, which is 1/12 in the nation. But where it gets really dicey with this Akron team is their defense. When I say they are bad, they are god-awful. And if they want some pump-up video, they should listen to me right now. They are 125th in the country in scoring defense out of 130 teams. They allow 38 points per game. Now, I know I said you can distort some of their stats because they played Auburn and Ohio State. And I get it. Like, those are going to – when you play those 2 teams, you're going to have some pretty ugly numbers. But 38 points per game allowed through 6 games is horrendous. It's awful.
And a 3-3 Temple team. I mean, they've played a 3-3 Temple team. Nothing.
And they had a 14-0 lead against that Temple team before losing by double digits. The scary thing, I think, if you're Akron is they played the same Bobcats we saw last week, which are better than their record at 1-5 or 1-6, whatever it is. But they lost by 17 to the Bobcats. That is not good. That is an ugly defeat. They did decent against Miami, Ohio for a short period of time. Bowling Green is just so weird. Bowling Green beats Minnesota, and then they allowed 28 unanswered points at one point against Akron. So I'm not really scared of this Zips team. They can't run the ball. They're one-dimensional. They're only averaging 3 yards per carry. I think if you're UB, you just basically tell Akron, try to throw against us. Play against the pass. And if they can run against you in that scenario, then you adjust. But there's no reason why UB should be fearful in this game.
A problem we've had with UB all season, Mike, is they have been slow to make adjustments in the defensive secondary. They need to be careful this game. They need to make sure they're dropping into different man coverages, too deep. They need help over the top. There's no reason to stack the box in this game, like you said. If they're getting their slow burn on the ground, that's probably a good thing, especially against their terrible defense. You need to play it that way. And what's so even more interesting about Kanata Mumfield is that he's done it in 5 games, 6 touchdowns in 5 games. He didn't play against that aforementioned Temple game or against Auburn. So he went, and then what even more impressive than that is his 7 for 70 and a touchdown against the Ohio State University. That's scary. I mean, those are some scary numbers against a team that, we say it all the time, Mike, like, we can't stop this receiver. And guess what happens? They can't stop this receiver. We say last week, they can't stop the running quarterback. What happens? They can't stop the running quarterback. It's almost like we know a little bit about this thing that we're talking about here, Mike. And to me, I don't care what you say, whether they can run the football or not. That's going to be a nightmare matchup for this UB secondary all game long. So what they need to do is get after Zach Gibson, put him on his back, do things he's not used to as a freshman quarterback. They need to put him on his back and make him feel uncomfortable all game long. That is the way to do it. Get after it, blitz him, and play some coverage. Do not worry about the run. Let Blake Hester get a little bit of yards, like his 4.5 yards in college. We're not going to worry about that too much. Or their backup running back John Zell Norlis, 2.9 yards per carry. These are things that you need to take account for in your game plan all game long. I need to see more out of this UB defense, and it needs to start now. It was an awful half of football, Mike, an awful, we'll call it 3/4 of football against Ohio. They turned it on for the 4th. What did they do against Kent? You were there. Awful 2 quarters of football, a ridiculous 3rd quarter, and then they fell apart.
Well,
so
it's 2 straight games. It's 2 straight games.
1 quarter football
behind 21-0 in the first quarter.
And play 1 quarter. They play one of 4 quarters. It doesn't make any sense. I'm glad it was the 4th quarter this past week. The 3rd quarter made it interesting against Kent. It really did. They took the lead. I mean, come on. But it's just this 1 quarter football thing, maybe a half quarter here and there, quarter and a half. But the 1.5 quarter thing's got to change. Got to start today against Akron right now. And this show, I got to mention, is brought to you by Hartman's Distilling. Get out there. Try your Mike's ready. Was Mike
every
ready?
time. I'm always ready.
Okay. Get out there and try your Loganberry. I actually met up with Al and got some of my own product. We're very, very eager to try it here tomorrow. Other Loganberry seltzers. We got some nice rye whiskey. Mike will let you know how that goes, but get out there to Hartman's Distilling and give it a go. What an amazing product. But back to the game, Mike. As we kind of hone in toward the back end here, what do you want to see from, we talked a lot about Akron, actually, which is good. A lot of our listeners and viewers probably don't know a ton about this team. They've had multiple quarterbacks. They have some good weapons, no running game, no defense. Passing game does scare me. So let's flip it. Let's go to UB side and let's talk about them a little bit. They're still kind of the same team they've been all season. Limited changes, pretty good up front on both sides of the ball. Terrible wide receiver weapons. Terrible defensive backfield, still a strong running game. My guy, Dylan McD, is still getting after it. Mike, bouncing it to you. What do you need to see from the UB side? And we'll start on offense.
I just want to see them obliterate Akron. And
okay,
I know you probably can't say that for this team against anybody, but this Zips team is not a good squad, and their defense is just right to pick apart. I think this is a matchup where I liked what I saw by Van Treese in the second half. They started getting the tight ends involved. He had some throws to Stevens and Borland, and he actually had a third touchdown wide open dropped. Throw was right on the mark, maybe a little bit outstretched, but I think it was Borland that had to drop one of the tight ends. And what I like is I feel like they were finally opening things up. I've been hoping for that the whole part of the season is a balanced attack.
Why did Keon only go for 3 for 28? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure. The weather might have played a little bit of a role early. It was a windy
Okay.
game, but I would just contribute that to just an off game. But I love what I saw from the offense once they had things going last week. Dylan McDuffie is asserted himself as the top back. He is undeniably the best running back on this roster. The yards per carry. I know in the NFL, you look at the running back position and you say it's a product of the offensive line in front of you. Well, if you look at the different yards per carry just based on the three backs on UB, that right there tells you the true story. Kevin Marks is struggling to get to 4 yards when anything under 5 yards in college really isn't cutting it. Dylan McDuffie is the consistent getting down the field. Ron Cook is the big playback. And you know what I want to see more of? They were doing dump off passes to Ron Cook, and he was breaking a tackle or eluding a guy and getting 10 to 12 yards on a lot of those throws. If you can continue to pound the rock with McDuffie, get Ron Cook involved in the passing game, and then start spreading it out between your tight ends and Keon, this offense could be very good. Keon's probably the only over-the-top guy I know. I think they like Gaston because they try to do a lot of trick things with him, and I know he's a youngster, so I think they have some plans for him down the future. But I think this is a game. Score 40s. Try to get 50. I know they won't, but this is a game the offense should go off.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're looking for. Look at the running game has been efficient at times. Like, you know, it's funny sometimes when they're running, you know, run, punt, or run. I mean, it's kind of funny at times. But it has been productive in stretches, 1,400 yards, good for 4.7, almost to that 5 number Mike mentioned earlier that they're looking for. So just a little bit more productivity needed there. And a lot of it goes down to Kevin Marks. The difference is 94 carries for 368 yards and 5 touchdowns. Well, you're like, well, okay, that's some good workload. But Dylan McDuffie, not many carries last, 83 carries for 492 and 6 touchdowns. You can no longer say it's a workload thing. If McDuffie got 100 carries, he'd be down there too. Same offensive line, same running scheme, same run sets. McDuffie's been more productive, period. 2 yards per carry more productive. That is a boatload. Times 80 carries, that is a boatload of more production. Feed him the rock. Mark should sprinkle in where necessary, and Ron Cook Jr. as well. As he's getting up 56 carries, that 163-yarder is now becoming a thing in the past that, baby, he's actually runs at a high yards per clip. He's been a productive player as well. So UB does have a good productive running game, and we'll have McDuffie and Cook next year as well. So there is some building blocks there for future teams. They're not just going to be one and done kind of players. So I do need to see more production out of the passing game, though. When we turn the corner, to kind of wrap up running first, though, 1,400 yards on the ground and 19 touchdowns. They've been productive.
19 out of the 25 touchdowns they've scored on offense this year are rushing.
Yeah, that's interesting. In 2021,
they had 2 passing touchdowns last game. So,
and they're not Army.
No.
So interesting. Kyle Van Treese, on the other hand, 61% completion percentage, 1,400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Need some production. We say it every week, but it's just not going to come this season. Mike, it isn't going to get done through the air. Really only throwing for 200 yards a game, roughly. Keon Williams is their only receiving threat. You've mentioned a couple other names. Is Giovanni Ruiz done? Do we know anything?
I mean, it doesn't
Have you heard anything?
Doesn't sound good. He hasn't even been shown on the roster, and there's rumors that the injury wasn't good, whatever happened. So it's hard.
He's been hurt his whole career.
It's hard with college athletes because they can't reveal information due to certain laws. So it's tricky.
Yeah, that's interesting. They're protected by HIPAA? Is that right?
I
Is
don't know
that
if
kind
it's
of
HIPAA or something. I just know that when it comes to
Hmm,
student athlete injuries, they don't need to reveal
okay.
what's wrong. That's why a lot of times you don't even know if somebody's injured. How many times this year have we gone into a game and then we're like, "Where's Taylor Riggins?" or "Where's this guy?" Oh, they were hurt. Didn't know that. Why didn't we know that? Because you don't have an injury report. So
Man, I love me Riggins. He just misses every other game. Like he's gonna take an
I
NFL
honestly
knock
feel
for
bad for him
every
because
other game, Mike.
I thought going into the year that if he had a monster season, he could possibly play his way into maybe getting drafted. I don't know. Maybe I don't know his measurables where they fit in as far as NFL talent, but I thought just from a pure production standpoint, he might have had a chance to at least get himself in the conversation, get a Senior Bowl invite, maybe try to make a mark. But you lost an entire season. Now the very next year you're missing time consistently. It's hard to think that he's really going to get much of an opportunity. And I feel like now at this point he's going to be labeled as an injury bug type player, which unfortunately stinks because he's honestly probably one of the best defensive linemen to ever come through UB.
Yeah, probably he is one of the best. Does he might get the COVID year though, so he might because of a year and injury and a half now that he's had. I don't know. Maybe I'd take it if I was him. There's nothing he can do wrong. I mean, coming back, if he gets another, I'm not sure if he has another year, he should use it. Like he's
Are
the
we
perfect
sure he
player.
does? I'm not sure if he has another year. I think last year would have been his senior year, and then this is the
What?
COVID year. Because I think he
Yeah,
originally, I think he redshirted a year. Didn't he
has he
transfer
used
from
his red
UMass?
shirt? Yeah, he's his transfer for sure. He played 18 and 19 at UB, recording 13 and a half sacks. Then 2020 was obviously COVID slash injury for him. 2021 is his. So I don't know what he was doing in 2017. Was he at UMass at that point?
Uh, let's see right here. This is entertaining stuff right here.
Yeah, I mean it's
Pulling
their
it
best
up.
defensive player.
So Riggins redshirted 2016. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. This would be his sixth year already. Yeah, this is it.
So he has 2017 was his redshirt freshman year, sat out season
Yeah,
per NCAA transfer
for
rules.
transfer. Played
He
2018
didn't
as
play
redshirt
six.
sophomore.
He didn't play 16 though.
No, he was redshirted in 16. But then he's transfer 17, so that's a transfer year. So he's a redshirt freshman the year he transfers, and then sophomore in 2018, junior 2019, redshirt senior 2020, but he gets the COVID year.
You know
So
what he
now,
might get though? Do you know what he might get? The
are you
sixth
saying
year
injury
exception.
exemption?
The injury. He might be one that's
Could
eligible
he
because
be a seventh? It's not going to
you're going to
happen.
see it starting next year. You're going to see it because of COVID. I think
Can
it's
you
possible
imagine?
now.
Could you imagine a seventh year senior? There's no way. Even if he was healthy, I can't see him coming back.
Okay.
At some point, you're like,
Okay.
I just want to start my adult life, regardless of what I'm doing.
It gets interesting in basketball a little bit too. Like as we turn the table to the basketball team coming up, Mike, we're going to do some shows probably in 2 weeks. We'll probably jump into some UB
It's
basketball
soon,
shows.
man.
I mean, their team looks good. I mean, they have some daunting, some crazy seniors. They'll all have COVID years to use if they want next year.
I doubt you'll see them
None of them
use it.
Janathan or Rondo, none of them use a red shirt.
Here's
So
the thing:
it's not like 7.
Graves could be back right now if he wanted to. Graves could be on this team.
I think he should be back. I really do.
I mean,
really
he
think
could have
should
come
be
back if he chose to. Like, if here's the scary thing. So, like, you could have Williams, Segu, Mbala all back next year, and then just to throw a little Bonaventure thing in there, they've had their core core three for this is the fourth year in a row they've had them, but they have 6 seniors. They could technically have all those seniors come back and have a 6 5-year players start for them once again next year. But this COVID is just We talk about it all the time. It's so
I'm a big
crazy.
recruiting guy. I'm big on scholarships. I'm big on eligibility, and I can't even follow it. So I don't know how the average person can follow what's going on right now. It's challenging to know if that player will use it, if they have it, like with the injuries. Is that
Like, think
can you
about
use
Antonio
both?
Nunn. Antonio
Yeah,
Nunn was someone I thought you might see back because he really didn't light it up last year in the shortened season. I was thinking, well, if you're Antonio Nunn, what could you really use? You could use a dynamic season. If I was him, I would have come back for one more year, transferred somewhere maybe, and seeing what I could do. Maybe follow the KJ Osborne route. I was very surprised that
yep.
he didn't play another year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The whole eligibility discussion is interesting, and we're definitely going to pick that up when we talk about the UB basketball team. We're going to definitely get a show on the books for some big out of conference matchups. Lots to look forward to on the basketball side, guys. Lots to look forward to. I really do think they came in top 60 in the country. I do think that they're playing for NCAA basketball, and they're playing for. I mean, at the very least, it's an NIT style team. So there's a lot to look forward to in UB basketball. With the seniors. This is what Jim Weitzel built, the ability to keep all of his players and finally starting to trickle in some potential recruits, especially at the forward position. The only team they'll probably be able to bang bodies with Ohio is UB because of their forward play as well. So
My
it will be
motto:
interesting.
tourney or bust this year.
It's got to be.
Tourney or
It's got to be.
bust.
They can't go on a run at the end of the year again and then not show up in the finals. I mean, they looked like the team to beat. Ohio came into that tournament just losing games left and right. They got hot too and just got hotter. UB looked hot. They went to overtime, won a great game in the semifinals, and they lost and did get a bit into the NIT and almost won their first round game, which is a bummer to see. But a lot to look forward to on the basketball side, and I promise you we're going to be getting some basketball content. We'll probably do, I don't know, Mikey, we might do a joint show. We might do 1-in-1. We'll see what kind of happens next 2 weeks, but we'll see how that is. I mean, they get into it quickly with some out of conference BCS action against some Power 5 schools, Mike. It's going to be a good time to be a UB basketball fan, and it might surprise some people similar. So I want to see this all come together now for Jim Weitzel and keeping this team together and bringing in some 3-star, some big 3-star forwards. I'm interested in Williamson. There's some good names. Watch out for our basketball content, Mike. We got to wrap up the football show here, though, on this pregame show just sponsored by Hartman's Distilling. And you know what time it is. It's, I guess, reiteration of our predictions and what's going to happen here on this afternoon in Akron, Ohio. UB Akron. Mike, who wins? Score prediction and why?
First, I'm going to give myself a humble brag. I nailed it last week. I was spot on. I know the final score read 27-26, and I said 27-24. The safety was a fluke. I was correct. We're going to forget the safety happened. So I want to take credit for that. Kev, you were a point behind me. So for 1 week, I have the bragging rights over you, even though you.
So we got to comment. What Mike does is he sees my prediction, and then it's like Price is Right. He changes 1 point in it, like the Price is Right, and changes his prediction. Just like this week, Mike. Let's hear about it.
So this week, I have UB winning this one, 31-21. I believe the spread is 12.5, with UB being the favorite. Over under is 57.5.
Ooh, 57.
I'm taking the under, but I think UB has a chance to score a lot of points. 31, I'm just being conservative because they have given me no reason to be very aggressive with my picks so far this year. But I think if there was a game to see them really break out and really unload on an opponent, this is the week. So 31-21, my prediction. And I want to just say it's a clean sweep for all the rest of the bullet point guys. But let's see what you have to say about this game, Kev.
Well, spoiler alert, everybody picked UB. I do think that they get it done. I do think that defense is bad enough against the run. I think UB will get it done. I don't think it'll be as sloppy as we saw against Kent, against Ohio at times, pretty much for both games of 3 quarters worth of sloppy football. I do think you'll see a little bit more complete action. I think they're one-dimensional now. Having a freshman quarterback throwing the ball a lot doesn't usually breed success, even if you do see some successful plays against the porous UB secondary. But I'm similar. I have the under as well in this game. I got 28-21. So once again, Mike takes my score, adds a field goal onto it, and tries to get closer to Vegas, going 10 points instead of the 12 that Vegas is given, right? 12 points. Wow. On the road and back play. I know Akron's not great. That doesn't make me feel great. Like I said, but I did what I did say last week, Mike. I took Ohio with the points. This week, it'd be hard for me to not, if I was a betting Vegas line guy, to leave a 12-point Akron team who can score, especially in MAC play, on the table. Even you have it going Akron with the money line. So it'd be tough for me.
I will say, last week, and just to be like fully like forward with people, obviously we cover UB, but Kevin, me, we like to be as spot on as possible. We don't care if our prediction is anti-UB or whatever. We pick what we think. And Kevin last week was very tempted to pick Ohio just based on what he saw going into the game with some of the deficiencies that UB had. Ended up going with the Bulls. But we saw early on in that game that there's plenty of reasons to think that Ohio could actually maybe pull off an upset. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't get any of those vibes this week. Entering last week,
no, it's not quite the same vibes.
Yeah, this week I don't. Let's just say if this game comes down to a field goal in the final seconds for UB to win or lose, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, and then to me, I was more looking at it like the 12 points. I do think it'll be, but like I predicted 7, you predicted 10. I do think it'll be between there, 7 and 10, which means the 12-point bet would be lucrative to make. But yeah, no, I mean, to me, I saw some major deficiencies with Ohio running quarterback. UB not stopping it at all. Look at what the plays that happened. Look at what Ohio was able to do in the first half. Get that safety, another special teams deficiency through 3 quarters, Mike. It all came to fruition of kind of the deficiencies that we were looking forward to. UB said, you know what, deficiencies aside, we're going to show that we're the better team. And they did it. And that's why I had them picked, because I thought that was possible. And that's why I picked them to select them. The bullet point group chat was roaring in quarter 3 last week. It was a brutal place to be. People were rooting against me because they wanted me to get my first L. So they're like, well, at least if Ohio loses, Kevin picked you, or wins, Ohio wins that game, Kevin gets to yell on his score predictions. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Kevin is still alive and he's still feeling good, and he's still feeling good about this pick. Next week might be another close to clean sweep against Bowling Green at home. I think we'll be pretty there. We were a little bit iffy on Bowling Green, but the team's not good either. So watch out for that pregame show. Ooh. That's going to be Miami on the road. It's going to be the splitting point here for the bullet points crew, and maybe all 3 of those. I don't know. Versus NIU, I don't know yet. We'll see, but I don't know.
Miami, Ball State, NIU, depending on how Ball State plays going into the end of the season.
We could all pick different, the 3 of us, if you take the 7 predictions that we all made.
I think you have a chance to have an undefeated season. I like your chances.
I'm feeling good about it right now.
Normally there's always one random game like so right now we're totally overlooking this game. Like we assume we're going to be right. Could that Bowling Green game be the game that kind of I
was thinking the Ohio game was the game that was going to do that, and I got through it. I really did. I thought the Ohio game was the game that was the matchup, was the game that was going to be able to do it. Ohio seems to be able to play well at UB Stadium, even though I think they've lost a bunch of games at UB Stadium, right? UB struggles there.
The home team has won, I think it was 9 out of the last 10 between Ohio and UB entering last game, and then that now is 10 out of 11.
Okay.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's weird. It's not even that far. Like that's
especially since there's no home field advantage. So
yeah, that's travel. Something about that travel for them in that series really does bother them, I guess. But you're right. The Bowling Green game at home, I'm feeling good about that being home. If that was a road game, I think it's trap. But I'm feeling at that at Miami game. No one's talking about Miami. They're kind of just puttering around at 3 and 4 as well, but they are 2-1 in conference. So there's a little bit to look forward to in that specific game. As they start to play Ball State, Ohio, Buffalo, Bowling Green, Kent. So we'll see where they finish out. They've lost to EMU. They lost to Army. So that's going to be an interesting team, Mike. That's going to be the first breaking point, I think. What happens in that game goes a long way. And then I still think it's the at NIU game, who NIU is leading the conference right now. I know they've only beaten EMU, Toledo, and Bowling Green, which is some bottom of the conference teams. We see their first real test here against CMU, who's also 2-1. They've played good in stretches, but if they get through that CMU game this weekend, Mike, that's a good NIU team. That's a game that maybe me and you will both be at for once. So that's a game to look forward to. 7 p.m. UB's only night game of the season. Is that right? Only night game, home night game of the season.
It's going to be a crowd of 1,500 people.
Let's hope we win a couple of games and it's not, because night games do get some fans. People are pumped up.
November 17th, it's going to be 35 degrees, 22 mile per hour winds, and you're going to see trash flowing on television because that's what happens in action weekday games in Buffalo in November. So
especially if UB drops a couple games, especially if they're on a hot streak with a little bit to play for, though, Mike, and it's promoted right, second to last game, I think it's possible that there's at least a decent turnout. So we'll see how that goes. But they need to take care of business today against Akron, next week against Bowling Green, and the following week against Miami. If they rail off their 4 wins against MAC East teams, I don't know. They're right there. So I think that's what would change. Mike, you'd be right in that case. They did.
Going into if we have a scenario where we can go into NIU where they're 6-4, and
I think people will show up for one time. People will show up for that.
Your prediction was 6-6. My prediction is 8-4. There's gonna be so much pride.
I don't think there's any way they beat Ball State on the road. I'm sorry.
If they go 7-5, I think that would be a good middle ground for both of us as far as our season picks.
Yeah,
Maniac would take it all. So,
would he really? Did he pick 7-5?
He went 7-5. Yeah,
he's like 3-4, whatever.
Yeah, if he hears this, he's horrible with his picks with UB. So.
Even Rob has got him beat. I think Maniac's like 3-4 or something, maybe 4-4.
I'm honestly surprised that Rob has picked anybody but UB the entire season.
Shout out to Rob.
Yeah, I think he was planning just picking UB every week, and then he suddenly realized I'm gonna have a losing record soon. So he just
shout out to Rob. Yeah. Shout out to the entire Bullet Points crew as we're wrapping up the pregame show. 45 minutes. What a great action-packed show. Mixed a little bit of basketball in it. We're going to bring that at you in 2 weeks. This has been brought to you by Hartman's Distilling. Get out there. Bunt's got it. Hartman's Loganberry flavored vodka, gluten-free, all-natural. One of the best out there. Make sure you add it to your game day rituals or just your weekend ritual, or weekday ritual. I mean, come on, keep it coming. Whatever you like to do, add it to your game day traditions. Hartman's Distilling Company. Get it and go to their great tap room. I mean, it's a great tasting room. I mean, man, it's beautiful looking. Really action-packed show. We really appreciate everyone for tuning in here, looking for some UB coverage. We always have you covered, and we hope to be, we joke about who's the most right and stuff, but we hope that we bring you unbiased, great coverage with actual knowledge about the MAC and not just UB. Mike's got Ohio. We try to bring you, I have my fan favorites of other teams that I think are playing specifically really well. I've always been like a kind of this thing about NIU, especially when they had German in basketball for a little while. There's just, everyone has their thing, and, look out for that this year, but it could be UB's year in basketball finally. And a lot of people know, I've been criticism. I've had some criticism of this current regime. And I think rightfully so, in my opinion, although other people would say, well, they made an NIT. Well, they've done this. They made it to the MAC finals, the tournament finals. To me, that's not enough for a team that was ranked in the top 20, Mike. But they might be back in action. They might be close. They might be on the brink. That loss by Ohio, losing their best player, maybe one of the better players in the conference in a long time, in Jason Preston, tips to scale UB no matter what Mark Sears is able to do. So we're going to have some great discussions in November about this, guys, but we have a game day football today, and we need a UB victory to make that NIU scenario happen that Mike was talking about. Or does Kevin run away with it at that 6-6 if they cannot get it done in one of these MAC East games? I predicted a Miami, Ohio loss, but we're gonna go down that road in a couple of games. Mike, great show. Any final words for the listeners?
Hey, let's get it done today. Let's get a UB victory and get back to 500. Let's go.
Get back to 500. And for Mike, go 8-4. Let's go Bulls.